We're back with more common knowledge. Let's take a look at some common Magic the Gathering cards and see if there are any good ones for the Pauper format. We'll start with Vidalcan Entrancer. It's 3 and a blue for a 1/4 Vidalcan Wizard. You can pay a blue and tap it, and target player mills 2 cards. It's okay, I guess. We have... I mean, when you have persistent petitioners out here, this kind of does the same thing. I mean, it only mills 1 card, but it's colorless to make it do it. But then it costs half as much. It still blocks most of the stuff that you're looking to block, and then it has this funky text of having any number of them and being able to tap a bunch of advisors and mill a ton of cards from your opponents or yourself. And I think that just ends up being you'd play a bunch of persistent petitioners before you'd ever consider playing a Vidalcan Entrancer. And so I think it just kind of gets edged out of the format. Let's go ahead. I mean, it's still not awful, but 4 mana for a 1/4 does feel pretty bad when you play it. Let's give this guy like a 2 point. Let's just give him a 2. I think just a 2 is fine. Cradle of Safety is 1 and a blue for an enchantment aura. It's got flash, and you enchant a creature you control. When this aura enters, enchanted creature gains hexproof until end of turn. An enchanted creature gets +1/+1. That's okay. It's okay. In blue, that's all right. I mean, we have what's the one we got in Duskmourn for white? It's extremely cannot remember. I can find it this way though. What if we did aura in white in Duskmourn? And I mean, we'll just find it through here. That'll be fine. Shard Mage's Rescue. That's what I'm thinking of. Also has flash. Enchanted creature gets hexproof. You get +1/+1. But you're not always going to be in white. Sometimes you're just in blue. This is basically like a snakeskin veil as well, but in blue instead of green. I don't think blue needs this so much. Blue's creatures aren't incredible, and white and green's creatures are much better, so that's why you want to protect them a little bit more. It's okay. It's okay, but I think overall you just really don't need it. Oh, this is a double feature. Ugh. The black and white baby card. I don't know if I like that. not a big fan of that. But I also just think blue, as I said, doesn't really need this effect where other colors do, and they get these kinds of protection spells for much cheaper. So it's okay, but it's not great. We'll give it a 2.5, I guess. 2.4. Let's say 2.4. Bagel and Schmear from Marvel's Spider-Man is a single mana for an artifact. It's also a food. You can either share, which is a white mana, and tapping this artifact, and sacking this artifact to put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and you draw a card. Or you can Nosh, which is 2 mana, tap and sacrifice this artifact, and you gain 3 life and draw a card. So it can't, like, the Nosh is just food. Like, that's what a food does, except you also draw a card. So it's kind of better than a food token, but you also paid a mana to put it on the battlefield. That's okay. It's all right. And the share, I think, is also all right, as you still get to draw the card, and you also get to get a counter. And counters aren't too bad. It does force you to play white if you're going to do that, but that's not terrible. I think the real problem is, is this better than Lembas? Lembas is kind of the food du jour of the Pauper format. And I think Lembas is just better. Yeah, you're spending 2 to put this on the battlefield, but you get to scry 1 and draw a card when it enters. Like, you don't have to... It can just stay on the battlefield for affinity decks and things like that, but you also get the effect, get the benefit when it comes into play, and it also has this kind of funky text of being able to shuffle back into your library, so potentially you get to use it over and over again. I think Lembas is just kind of easily the better card than Bagel and Schmear. but it's okay. This is fine. I just don't think it really has that much place. I think affinity decks kind of know which artifacts they want to play at this point, and this doesn't unseat any of the artifacts that they're considering playing, basically in any color combination of affinity. So I'll give this a still a pretty respectable like 2.6, but I still don't think it's all that useful. Jukai Trainee is a card I like a lot, and I just shouldn't. This is not a very good card. Jukai Trainee is 1 and a green for a 2/2 human samurai, and when this creature blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay, couple reasons I like this. One, it's because it has this alternate art, which I think looks rad. I just think that's a really cool art. Two, it's from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and I like Kamigawa a lot, but the other reason is because what's a good example here? Let's go Kitsune Blade Master. So Bushido was something we had in Kamigawa, the Kamigawa block, and that was when this creature blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. You got as many. You got the pump according to which Bushido you had. So Bushido 2 would give you a +2/+2. I think there was even a creature that had Bushido 5. So you'd get different levels of Bushido with that. And it wasn't a great mechanic. It just kind of made your opponents not want to block. Or it also just really slowed the format down too, because here's a 2/2 guy, but when he blocks, he's a 3/3 with first strike. Okay, he blocks kind of all day long and can kill a bunch of creatures, so you just end up not swinging in that much. And I think it really just kind of slowed the format down. But I, as a person who liked Champions of Kamigawa, unlike a lot of people, I thought Bushido was rad. So I've kind of waited for them to bring Bushido back, and they just never did because it's not a very good mechanic. Also, your opponent would just generally not block, take the damage because they would take a lower amount of damage because they didn't get the Bushido off. Nothing blocks it, so it still just remains a 2/2. So this card is kind of the only card that got Bushido without even calling it Bushido. It has it has Bushido 1's text without calling it Bushido 1, and I liked that as a fun callback. And this is a halfway decent creature. I mean, it's a grizzly bear that can get bigger, and I think that's cool. Strictly better grizzly bear. You don't play this in Pauper. Like basically a vanilla 2/2 that can sometimes be a vanilla 3/3. Okay, but for the memories, I love this card quite a bit. Also interesting that there aren't a whole lot of green samurai. There was maybe only a couple, maybe even only one in Champions or in the Kamigawa block, and so to get at least one more green samurai, there might have been a couple more green samurai. I think there was also one. There was like a frog one in the original Modern Horizons, maybe Modern Horizons 2. So they've added a couple of green samurai over the course of time, and who knows, maybe we'll get some in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set as well. I know there's some turtle variants that are also samurai. I can't remember if there were any that were green though. What do you give this thing? I mean, from a purely nostalgia, I would love to give this a 5, but I can't. I just can't do that. It's not very good. I'll give this a 1.8, and I'd feel a little bit bad about it. Change of Heart is a single white mana for an instant that says target creature can't attack this turn, but it also has buyback 3, so you can pay an additional 3 mana as you cast the spell. And if you do, you put that card back into your hand as it resolves. Target creature can't attack this turn. For 1 mana, that's okay, I suppose. For 4 mana, that's not very good. But for 4 mana, knowing you get to put it back in your hand and get to use it turn over turn over turn, you could potentially even use it multiple times in a turn if you have a ton of mana. It's not great. This isn't great. It's not the strongest effect, and it ends up being a real mana sink when it doesn't have to be. I think this just ends up being a pretty dead card most of the time in your hand, or when you do cast it, you don't feel like paying the buyback costs. So then you just play it once, and it just that's not going to do a heck of a lot for your games, and you'll kind of regret it. Let's give this a 1.4. Yeah. Might Beyond Reason is 3 and a green for an instant. Put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. And if you have Delirium, you put 3+1/+1 counters on that creature instead if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. Delirium is not the hardest thing to get in Pauper. There's a number of ways to mill yourself or discard cards and finding ways of strategically putting cards in your graveyard, or you could just mill a bunch and put a ton of cards in your graveyard and you'll get Delirium eventually, right? 4 mana is quite a bit. 4 mana for 2 power isn't great. 4 mana for 3 power also isn't that great. I guess at instant speed, it becomes a little better. It becomes kind of a combat trick. That's cool. I wouldn't pay it. I wouldn't pay this much mana for this spell, for this effect. I think I can give it a 1.9. Next up is honed Copish. And it's an artifact that's an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and it equips for 1. That is... That's a Leonin Scimitar. This is what I know this card is. It's a 1-mana equipment, gives 1/1, equips for 1. So I guess in Amonkhet we just got a more flavorful one for the Egypt-y kind of set. So that makes some sense, I suppose. I think Leonin Scimitar is all right, so I think this card's all right. Neither of them are great. I don't think you really blame a Pauper. Like they're a halfway decent limited card. Pretty normal Magic right there. I'll give this a 2.1. Deadly Derision is 2 and double black for an instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Create a treasure token. Interesting. You know, we've seen cards like Murder out there that's 1 in double black that destroys a target creature. This is essentially what that is. Like you're paying 4, but you are getting the treasure token, so it's like it costs 3. The treasure token could be used to color fix, I suppose. So there's some value out of that. It's an artifact that's on the table. There might be some value out of that. 4 mana for a creature kill spell isn't very good. And I think the reason this might cost 4 at this point is because you get the extra value of killing a planeswalker in something like Standard or Limited, something like that. You don't get that in Pauper. Again, no Pauper planeswalkers, so that's a dead part of the card. And I think you'll mostly just find that this is a pretty overcosted kill spell, and you'd rather just play Cast Down. So you will. Or Go for the Throat, or Doomblade, or so many other cards that you could play for much cheaper. Terror. I would probably play Terror over than playing this. So for just another overcosted kill spell, it is nice that it makes a artifact token though. That could be useful in some instances. So we'll give it a 2.5, I guess. You know, it is a kill spell, so that's pretty good. Satyr Rambler is 1 in a red for a 2/1 Satyr creature with trample. Not great. You know, your Savannah Lions has trample and costs twice as much. I'm okay. I'm fine. Let's give this a 1.2 and move on to our final normal card of the day. Ooh, I remember this guy. Tel Jalad. I don't think I've ever had to say that that name before. Tel Jalad. Exile is 3 and a green for a 2/3 troll warrior. You can pay 1 and a green and regenerate this creature. He's not all that great. He's pretty normal, but I see a Mirrodin card and I go, yeah, I remember playing you. I played a bunch of bad Mirrodin cards and a bunch of good Mirrodin cards against a lot of friends in middle school and high school. And I know I had some copies of this guy. I don't think I have any copies of this guy anymore. Maybe I got rid of them all because he's not very good. You probably don't want to play him. Regenerate is interesting. This is a relatively cheap regenerate cost. And regenerate does allow you to keep this thing alive a lot more often than you'd think. If you're not familiar with regenerate, because Wizards doesn't use it very often, I think they've semi-retired or maybe completely retired the mechanic. But regenerate is if like the next time this creature would be dealt lethal damage, instead you remove all the damage from it and you tap it, and it still stays on the table. So it stays there. And then if somebody tried to give it lethal damage again, you could regenerate it again, but it would stay tapped. So if somebody tried to lightning bolt this thing and you regenerate it, okay, well, it's tapped now, and then they could swing in and he can't block. But you could block with this creature, knowing that it was about to take lethal damage, and you could pay its regenerate cost, remove it from combat, tap it, and it stays alive. So that is a way of blocking a bunch of stuff that doesn't have trample. But it could be a way of stalling out the board. So regenerate is not terrible. There are cheaper regenerator guys out there who you definitely play over this guy. Cheaper to play them in the first place, and also cheaper to play the regenerate ability. So I think this guy, even though he does have that kind of utility, still not the best one to use for this kind of utility. So not amazing. Let's give this guy a 2. 2 is probably too much. Let's give us a 1.9. And we'll do a bonus card. I just like doing bonus cards. Due Diligence is 2 and a white for an enchantment aura. You enchant a creature. When this aura enters, target creature you control other than enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and gains vigilance until end of turn. And then this creature, enchanted creature, gets +2/+2 and has vigilance. That's okay. That's all right. 3 mana for +4/+4, and you give 2 creatures vigilance for the turn. That makes it feel like a cool combat trick. I guess it's not a combat trick because it doesn't have flash, so you'd be playing this at sorcery speed and in your first main phase. It makes it a really juicy target for your opponent to either counter this outright, or even better, destroy the creature that you are about to target it with. Because then you don't get the effect of this coming onto the battlefield either, so you miss out on all of that effects. If this was a cast trigger instead, if it's when you cast this aura, target creature other than enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and vigilance until end of turn, then I would say that's pretty cool. I like that. It gets around the possibility of somebody destroying your creature in response to the target to try to shut it down. Cast trigger, at least you still get some value out of it. I think this would be thought of a lot better, at least by me. It's not amazing outside of that. The decks that might want it, like a Bogle's deck, are going to find that it costs a little too much than they want to spend on an aura. They're also, while they have multiple creatures that might make this kind of worth it, I think you're generally kind of Voltroning a single creature most of the time in those Bogle's decks. And so giving another creature +2/+2 and vigilance is not a really big deal. It's okay, but let's give it a 3.2. 3.2? Yeah, 3.2 works for me. All right, that's enough for today. We'll catch you next time on Common Knowledge. See you then.